This edition of MacVoices is supported by ScreenCastsOnline, your source for new Mac and iOS tutorials every week. To learn more and for a 14-day free trial, visit ScreenCastsOnline.com. And by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Take Control time, but this time we have not one, but two authors, but one book, which is something that doesn't seem to happen a lot. First up, Mr. Adam Engst. Adam, it's great to have you as always.
Indeed. Always good to be here, Chuck.
And Mr. Josh Centers. Josh, it's good to have you back, too.
Thanks for having me back, Chuck.
And the book we're going to talk about, of course, is Take Control of Preview, the latest addition to the Take Control series. And I just asked them both, is there anything in particular we should say about Preview? And they both gave me great answers, so I'm going to ask it again, so maybe they'll give me the same answers. Maybe not.
Cheating.
Yeah, cheating. So why Take Control of Preview? This is an app that's been around for a while. On our Macs, everybody has it, and everybody uses it to preview, PDFs. And I think that's where a lot of people think it stops.
Well, when we were talking about doing, this all started as a Tidbits article. So Josh and I were just like brainstorming what we should do. And we'd gotten the feedback from Tidbits readers. They really liked it when we dove into something built into the Mac OS. So, we'd written articles about copy and paste and quick look and stuff like that. I was like, let's do something about preview. And I forget, Josh, did we actually start as one article and then it became like, okay, we need to do more articles? and then we got to the point where we had like 6 articles and it just kept growing.
Yeah, I've been pushing to write something about Preview for a while because it's long been my favorite Mac app. And even, in years where I didn't use a Mac for a while and I went back to Windows for a bit, I always missed Preview because it's such an awesome app. And I don't think many people realize what all it can do. And so we wrote this series of articles called The Power of Preview on Tidbits, and it got a tremendous response. And we had people emailing us regularly asking, can you guys please just put this in a book? Can you just put this in a book for us and we'll buy it? So, how could we pass that up?
Yeah, really. It was fascinating, though, because there is always this thought that, well, books are it's like putting on a show. Hey, we'll put on a show. It'll be easy. And we've written these 6 articles. Look, we've already taken all the screenshots. We know all about it. We'll just compile it into a book. It'll be bing bang bang. We'll be done. It was a nice idea. What we ran into, first of all, was that a book is designed differently. That an article is more about, I'm trying to think what the best way to explain this is. You can just say, here are the features in an article. And particularly because an article is relatively short, you can just kind of pull out some features. But with a book, you need to say, what am I trying to teach the reader? And you have to make sure all of those pieces go together well. And so, we completely re-outlined the book. And in fact, even the outline changed. As Josh can attest, the outline even changed a couple of times during, the writing where we hit all this stuff like, where do you talk about creating PDFs, which Preview can do, but it's certainly not its main goal. And it's not what people think of doing first. But if you just bury it somewhere, then someone comes in and says, well, how do I make a PDF of such and such? They're not going to find in the table of contents.
Okay, so preview is a weird little animal because you click it and it opens and you see a lot of things there, and there are a lot of things that are hidden, but you never get around to really paying attention to it. And I haven't quite figured out why we all have that experience until we dig into Preview. And I have to admit, I know a lot of the tricks. I don't know all the tricks in the book. I've learned a few things. I learned a few things. Victor Kayao did a great presentation on Preview at MacStock a couple weeks ago. And even there, it's like, wow, I didn't know it could do that. And that seems to be what everybody says about Preview.
It's really true. I mean, as Josh can talk more about this, but you hit Command Shift A, the markup toolbar appears, and oh my goodness, there's all these features.
That's sort of the genius of Preview is that, as Adam mentioned, you can use it several thousand times and not know this stuff. Heck, you may not even know it's an app called Preview. It's just, it's just a PDF or it's just an image you opened up. But you dig into things more, and this is what the book will help you do. But you dig into things more, and you realize all the powerful capabilities it has. And as someone who professionally takes and edits screenshots several times a week, I've started using Preview over anything else. And my second favorite graphical tool is Pixelmator, which is a fantastic alternative to Adobe Photoshop. But for the simple stuff, Preview is so much faster. I don't have to worry about layers. I don't have to worry about what save something as. I can open something up, crop it, resize it, close it, I'm done. And it's just that simple. And, it makes it one of the classic Apple apps. When you think of, we talk about, Apple at its best, the simplicity of its software that hides a lot of power. I think Preview is the ultimate example of that, because it's one of those things you can use 1,000 times, never realize this stuff is there, but you really start diving into it and you realize just how powerful it can be.
The real problem, I think, is that people don't think, I want to mark up a photo, I'll launch Preview. They don't think, I need to make comments on a PDF, I'll launch Preview. That it's called Preview, for goodness sakes. It's not called edit graphics or markup PDFs or, something whizzy. It's got the most boring, seemingly obvious name in the book that says read only. Preview. It's not even like open up and get lots more features. It's just Preview. So I think it's sort of doing it a disservice to think of it that way, because it can really do, who knows what the actual percentage is, but almost any time someone comes to me and says, hey, I need a graphics app that can do such and such, I'm like, well, probably Preview can. Have you looked? So a friend of mine just, not that long ago, he needed to take a map, I forget what he had as a JPEG or a PDF, and he needed to outline a running course on it. And the question was, what's the best app for that? I'm like, well, there's lots of things that'll do it, but you got Preview on your computer, you may as well try that. And, its freehand tool isn't the best, but you can probably do it. And, for something you need to do once, you don't want to go buy an app. You don't want to fuss with an app. You don't want to learn something new. You just want to get your work done. And that's where a lot of these features in Preview come in.
But it's not just markup. That's thing. And I'm with you, Adam, completely. I think photos, we think of iPhoto or Aperture or now Photos, the Photos app. So we were sort of trained in that direction. And PDFs are so ubiquitous, but Apple set it up so that you double click on a PDF and it opens in Preview. So, this must be the PDF viewer, and that's where it stops. And the annotations, okay, maybe you might stumble across that. One of the things that I'm fascinated by is the power that is inside Preview for photo actual manipulation of photos, color correction and all.
I mean, in some respects, well, there's two things. Almost anything you can do in Photos, you can do in Preview. Photos it pulls out some different ways of touching photos, but the controls are really all, the basics are there. Certainly anything that you could do in iPhoto, you can do in Preview. And so the question is, well, when would you want to? Well, again, imagine that you're doing a Facebook post or something like that, where it's not just about manipulating the image, but it's about adding some context. It's about calling something out. That's where you can't do that in iPhoto. You can't do it in Photos. I don't know if you could do that sort of thing in Aperture. I don't think so. But so you can do it's Photos or Preview becomes a one-stop shop for a lot of these kinds of editing. And it's surprising, again, until you realize the tools are there, you just don't think about using them at that point in your workflow.
Josh, you mentioned the screenshots and how you use that to manipulate those. I've got a few pretty good ideas about what you probably do, but what are the kind of things you do to screenshots?
Well, one of the really cool things, and I think it's something we already knew, but we didn't really think about it much until we started writing the preview articles. But you can actually take screenshots inside preview itself. Normally we're used to using the Mac keyboard shortcuts, Command Shift 4. I can't even think of them.
It's muscle memory.
Yeah.
It's like a Vulcan nerve pinch at this point. So, but one of the really handy things in Preview is you can actually take a screenshot with Preview itself under the File menu. You can take a screenshot of a window or a selection from the screen or the whole screen, and then you can edit it right there in Preview and then export it. I actually use that quite a bit while making the Preview book. I needed a screenshot. I would take it with Preview, edit it right there, and then save it. But the most common things I do, we usually have to crop things or resize things so they fit in a certain size, or they aren't just ridiculously large. Like sometimes you take a screenshot and you look at it, and it's like a 5 megabyte file, and you don't want to put that in a take control book or upload that to tidbits. So you use crop to trim out the unnecessary stuff. You reduce the file size if you have to. Sometimes you do have to do color correction. That's a pretty rare thing, but those are all things Preview can do really well and do really quickly, and it costs you nothing. It's built right into the Mac, so it's pretty amazing.
So just to emphasize what Josh is saying, give you a couple of examples. So one of the real problems with a lot of windows on the Mac is they've got these big drop shadows. And so if you just take a screenshot of a window using Preview or the standard window screenshot approach, and it's built into the operating system, you will get that shadow. However, let's say you there's a trick to not get the shadow, or you take a bigger screenshot that you're going to crop out so you can do that. Then the problem you run into is that a whole lot of stuff on the Mac is white or a very light gray. And so there's no edges. And so when you put your screenshot into a white page book, it looks stupid because you can't tell where the edges of the left and right and bottom edges are all gone because you've only got a title bar at the top. So it looks terrible. And we actually have a little automated workflow that borders things with a 2-pixel gray border. So one of the things we have to do a lot over and over and over again is you take a screenshot, you crop it so that there is just nice clean white on all the edges, and then you run your border or workflow, and that gives you a really clean bordered screenshot. Or another one, we have all these inline graphics that we have in the book, and those are tiny little buttons that need to go in. So we take those, we shoot those at 144 DPI on a Retina screen, and they're kind of hard to capture, honestly. They're so small. So what you do is you just take a rough capture, then you zoom into it, so it makes it all nice and big and easy, and it looks all bitmapped, kind of like the old days in the Mac. And then it's very easy to crop it perfectly to the edges. So again, just simple stuff, simple tools, but you can get really good, clean results when you're working in Preview, and you can do it quickly. I mean, I have a bunch of apps, but realistically, it's just faster and easier to do almost everything in Preview than it is to work another thing. One last, actually, nope. Well, there's one other thought I had, but I've lost it, so I'll let someone else talk for a second while I think of what it was.
Well, I'll just say this. We were talking about Preview's utility, and one of the things we discuss in the book is the things Preview isn't good at, because it's not good for every occasion. But I liken Preview to a multi-tool, like a Leatherman or a Swiss Army knife or something. I personally always have a Leatherman on my belt, and it's like an extension of myself at this point. And for me on the Mac, Preview is the same thing. It's that Leatherman, it's that multi-tool you always have around. It's not always the best for every job, but 9 times out of 10, if you just need to do a quick job, you need to do a quick crop, something like that, it's the tool that's right there, and it's always there for you, and it's fast and it's reliable.
The thing I was going to mention real quickly was getting a screenshot with a cursor in it is hard. But with Preview, you can take a full screen screenshot which has a timer. The grab utility does this as well. But with that timer, you've got 10 seconds to set everything up, and it will just take the entire thing, and you can get exactly what you need. So again, we don't think, oh, I want to take a screenshot of this tiny little menu with my pointer. I'll take the full screenshot and crop it. But once you get into the Preview mindset, who cares how big the original image was? You're only going to take 500 pixels out of the middle, so just make it as big as possible and crop out all the rest of the stuff, which you can do in 3 seconds.
I didn't. I don't think I knew that part, Adam. That you can set a timer so you can pull down menus and then catch them that way.
Yep. In Preview Screenshot or in the Grab utility Screenshot, you can do that. But Grab has other problems because it saves everything. It captures everything as a TIFF, and you got to save as ping, and it's just fussy. So Preview turns out to be really good for that. One thing we don't use it for much is actually you can bring in photos from a camera or an iPhone, just like an image capture. But the scanner, that's the one that I was. We're going through this when the article's going, what? It does scanning? Who knew? Because scanning is such a pain, right? You've got the scanner. Usually everyone's got a slightly old scanner that's not really well supported by nasty HP or Epson software, right? The software used to work under Snow Leopard and it doesn't work anymore, but the scanner's perfectly good. Turns out Preview is almost all you need. That it will work with a whole lot of these things. You don't need to use specialized, horrible software written by bad programmers at these companies. You can just use Preview, and it will give you all the basic capabilities you need for scanning.
One other thing you mentioned that I used Preview for a long time before it really clicked that I could do this. It's a great image conversion tool. It can open an awful lot of image formats and then save the back out to anything else. And so all of a sudden, all those hassles with TIFF images, and it still won't handle EPS, I don't think, will it? But other than that,
never bet against it. I have to look.
but other than that, you can open that TIFF image and save it as a JPEG, save it as a PNG, and do all kinds of great things. And it's simple.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, it's not graphic converter, but as Josh says, for the changing between the 4 formats that actually matter, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I use it all the time because Apple's product images are in TIFF, and we prefer PNG for tidbits. So I open it up in Preview, save it out as PNG, then scale it down because they're normally enormous images because they're intended for print if need be. Well, the cool thing is you can open up a PDF and you can actually export a page as a JPEG if you want. So if you have an image in a PDF, you can extract that pretty easily. There's all kinds of neat tricks with conversion.
So here's the reason to do that, which I've run into not that long ago with a club I'm part of. We had a PDF entry form for a race, but the person who was promoting the race wanted to send out a picture of it. And so it was trivial to convert that one-page PDF into a JPEG so she could email it, and it would show up in the email as opposed to being an attachment. And, minor stuff, lots of other ways of accomplishing it, but this was an easy one.
Well, it's easy, and it's right there in front of you. And Josh, to go back to the image thing, too, you talk about resizing. It resizes images. And it scales them proportionally or stretches them depending on what you want. It just and by pixels too. That's a nice thing. It's not a case of any of this percentage stuff. So you're trying to figure it out. If you want it 90 by 90.
Percentage, pixel, inches, and I use those all the time. And the cool thing is that the dialog will actually tell you what your file size will be, what your ending image size will be. So if you're trying to hit a certain mark, like we do this all the time with Take Control. I believe what the maximum height for an image in a Take Control book's like 400, 420 pixels, something like that. So I can always hit that mark every time with Preview.
I'm not sure who to address it to, so I'll just throw it out there. But somebody talk a little bit about the signing of documents and how easy it is with Preview, because I think that's another thing that's important.
It saves so much time. As somebody who fills out a lot of W-9s and things like that. If you work as a freelance writer, every business you do business with, you have to get a W-9 for tax purposes. And so instead of having to print the thing out, fill it out, sign it. What Preview will let you do, and a lot of people don't know about this, it's such a great trick. It has a sign tool. They actually call it 2 different things in the interface. I'll just call it the sign tool for now. But you can insert a signature 2 ways. You can you can draw it on a trackpad just with your finger, or if you have some kind of stylus that's not an Apple Pencil, you can draw it out. And this is really cool. This is one of my favorite things about Preview, if not my favorite thing about Preview. You can sign your name on a blank piece of paper, just a blank white piece of paper, and hold it up to your web camera, and it will actually capture the signature and store it for you. And so you can be filling out these documents, and you can just press a button, insert your signature, and you're done. So if somebody emails you something like, hey, I need you to fill this out, sign it, get it back to me, you can, instead of having to print that out and scan it and all this, you can get that done in minutes, because Preview also lets you insert text in addition to shapes and things like that. So you can fill out this entire form, sign it with Preview, send it back to them, just that easy.
And let me do this, Adam. You can resize that signature in case, which is brilliant. I mean, it sounds like, oh yeah, I'll just slap it in there, and then you realize that one time the gap to put your signature in is this big, the next time it's this big, and you can. It's brilliant.
So one of the, just a tip for people is, if you're going to use the holding it up to a camera thing, make sure you use a clean piece of paper that's doesn't have print on the backside, or it'll sometimes bleed through, and use a black Sharpie. Because if you use just a thin pen, it just has more trouble getting it, and you'll be dropouts and whatnot. But and sign it fairly big, a good 2-inch signature. And because the better it can read that, the better it will look when you scale it down, as Chuck was suggesting, to fit in the form. People don't necessarily realize this. There's actually 2 types of PDF forms. There's the stupid type, where someone has just scanned the form and there's visual lines, but that's it, and you have to actually insert text boxes and move them around. But there's also interactive forms, which you can create with things like Acrobat Pro or PDF Pen Pro. And you can't create them in Preview, but you can fill them in. So an IRS form, for instance, the W-9s that Josh was talking about, a 1040, something like that, you can actually just click in the field and you type, and you don't have to enter a text box or anything like that. Hit tab, it'll just take you to the next field. So it's always worth checking whenever you download a PDF form to see if it's an interactive form with the kind of the built-in spaces before you get into trying to create your own text labels.
We often talk about how the apps that Apple provides, I'm thinking Calendar, Contacts, things like that. I saw that, Adam. Yeah, well, but they're perfectly serviceable apps. Okay, we may have our own preferences, but they get the job done. But if you need to step up to more powerful apps, pro-level apps that for these issues, there are things like BusyCal and some of the contact managers and all. But Preview feels like it's not that basic. I mean, absolutely, PDF Pen and Acrobat have a lot more features, but they're not the features you're going to use every day like like Preview has.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I would love to meet the Preview team. There's something about that group of programmers that is different. Such that they haven't had to turn this app into an iOS app. So there's no iOS version that's like changed everything because it has to be touch compatible, and certain things are just too hard when it's touch compatible. And they haven't had to make it look like it's an iOS app like Preview, like Contacts and Calendar have, and all that. So it's as though they've just been slowly refining thing after thing after thing for. I mean, Josh, you were saying, what was you said you were found out this was actually back to the Next days. Mm-hmm. I hadn't realized that.
Yep. Yeah, it was originally a Next Step app. It's actually older than OS 10 itself.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually used Next machines at Cornell very early on, but I had forgotten all of that. I actually only remember Clock. We used to torture Clock because it had display PostScript, and we didn't actually really like the machines. They were kind of annoying as people in charge of the computer room. So and Clock had display PostScript, so we would make it really tall and thin and things like that to torture display PostScript. Yeah, I was young, Yeah.
With way too much time on your hands. You're torturing a language, Adam. That doesn't make any sense. But
I was torturing a CPU, to be clear.
Oh, okay.
Making it so much fun.
Those things had optical drive that sucked in dust and then destroyed the machines. It was brilliant engineering. Sorry. We're getting distracted.
Yeah.
But But I mean, the thing that's also really interesting about Preview, and it's telling about sort of why this is such a great Mac app, is so much of what it can do is bringing together all these technologies that are just built into OS 10. So the screenshot, bringing in photos from a camera or a scanner, using versions. It's just taking advantage of all sorts of these built-in technologies that are in OS 10 and serving as a little bit of a poster child for them. That something like adjusting colors. That's not something that's special to Preview. It's exactly the same interface that you saw in iPhoto way back when. Exactly. But that's good because they were able to make it once, and then both iPhoto and Preview could call into that API to get that capability for editing photos. And that's a really neat kind of thing to realize. Or making PDFs. You can print a PDF in any app, which turns out to be really useful. And you can even print a PDF in Preview to another PDF, which gives you some encryption technologies that you wouldn't have otherwise. So again, utilizing the built-in stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to know when some of these features got added to Preview. I mean, because in the iPhoto engine you're talking about, is this something that got discarded, or did they build the hooks in, quietly? But I don't remember some of that image editing, a lot of those image editing capabilities being there a few years ago. But now there they are in all their glory.
Yeah, it would really be interesting to install some old versions of OS 10 and go back and see when these things came in, because I really don't know either. That's why we're so surprised, because we're used to Preview not doing all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I've used Preview for a long time. It's been my favorite Mac app for 15 years now, something like that. It seems like forever. See, I started with 10.1 was when I upgraded to OS 10, and I just fell in love with it right away. But yeah, it's just over time it just keeps gathering these things. It's been able to do a lot of this stuff for a while, but yeah, it just very slowly, quietly evolves because no one's paying attention to it. No one at Apple's paying attention to it. Unfortunately, we put a spotlight on it, so hopefully they don't ruin it now. But this Preview team just kind of works in the basement, just slowly making the greatest Mac app ever.
So I'm not going to do a roll call of everything we just mentioned because we just mentioned it. But what else is there that we haven't touched on? Because I know that the book is chock full of stuff that we all forget, Josh.
We haven't discussed actually reading PDFs. Most people think of Preview as a PDF reader, which it is, but it has so many capabilities that you may not expect in such a basic built-in app. For instance, you can highlight text. If the PDF does in fact have actual text in it, it's not just a picture of text as PDFs sometimes do, but you can highlight text, you can add notes, you can even add bookmarks. And the cool thing is you can search all these things. And we explain in the book how to use the different sidebars to navigate this stuff in a book, in a PDF book. So if you're reading, let's say, a take control book, in Preview, you can highlight your favorite passages, add notes, things like that, and easily access those. And it's also great for a collaboration because you can add these little notes to things, highlight stuff for other people as you pass this file back and forth. It's a very capable PDF reader in and of itself.
People really don't think about the various ways that you can set it up too, because it's just like you open it up and there's a PDF and you start reading. But it turns out there's bazillion different ways to make it fit better with the way you want. So for instance, do you want to read one page at a time, or do you want it to scroll smoothly? Do you want to see two up? Do you want to see two up plus a sidebar of your table of contents in full screen mode? Do you want it to see two up plus a sidebar in full screen? Actually, I don't know about the sidebar. In full screen mode and have it flip pages for you automatically.
Just to illustrate how much of an old school Preview fan I am, back when I was in college, and this is before there was like dedicated e-readers like the Kindle that we have now, I had my little 12-inch iBook, and my favorite version of Preview is still to this day the one that was in 10.3 Panther, because you could full screen a PDF and you could actually read on my iBook. You could hold it open like a book because you could press the touchpad button, the trackpad button to turn the page. They took that out in Tiger, and I was very upset about this. And I read 2 or 3 different books literally holding a laptop over my head and clicking the trackpad button to advance the page.
Adam, you can have it turn the pages for you?
There's a slideshow mode.
Oh.
And slideshow with PDFs is basically having it turn the page.
Oh.
It's not, again, this isn't everything you could imagine, so you can't control how slow or fast the pages turn, so it might not work for what you're doing, but it's worth keeping in mind. One of the things that people often don't think about the utility of, for instance, is images are JPEGs or PNGs, right? And PDFs are PDFs, and they're all like texty documents. But it doesn't have to be that way. So imagine that you have a bunch of images that you want to send to someone. And I mean a bunch. I mean 150. This would not be a good thing to send them 150 random files and then they have to figure out what to do and they're all named silly and all this kind of stuff. With Preview, you can open all those images, follow a couple of easy steps, and print them all to a PDF. Then you've got one file with one image per page in landscape mode, say, and you can put this thing, put a Mac into full screen mode in Slideshow, and suddenly you've got a nice slideshow of one image every 5 seconds or whatever it is, with only one file to keep track of and to have to send around to people. It'll be big, sure, but sending 150 images to people will be big no matter what you do. So those are the kinds of, when you start realizing how Preview lets you morph the different images, different image formats and PDF formats and all that together, you start to actually end up with some really interesting capabilities.
I feel like we should have a discussion of Ginsu knives in here somewhere. I mean, but it really is just that kind of.
It dices.
Yeah. Well, Josh's Leatherman is a perfect example. That's just it. There's. I'm not going to say you can do everything with Preview, but there's an awful lot you can do, and it almost should be your first stop for trying to do something.
That's absolutely right. You can't build a house with a Leatherman. You just can't. But you can probably cut down a sapling and build a campfire. That kind of thing. So there's you have to use the right tool for the right job. And we actually, as I said, we have a whole section about, particularly with PDF, because that's where Preview can't do things that PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro or Acrobat Pro can do. And it can't do them. If you want to make an interactive form, you want to do a true redaction without having to do printing to PDF and losing text layers otherwise, you need those apps, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're not trying to be the only app on your Mac. But or you want to convert to 200 different formats. You need graphic converter. You want to convert to among 4 or 5. Preview is fine. So that really is what that Leatherman analogy is perfect for saying and giving you the idea of how to do this. It's right there. You pull it out. Can it do this? Yes, it can. I'm done. And if you discover it can't, then you move on.
Right. Speaking of the Leatherman aspect, one thing we haven't mentioned yet, and this is something exclusive to the book we didn't get to in the articles, but we discuss creating and viewing animated GIF files, which I hope I pronounced that right, or otherwise there's going to be emails. But that's what I'm going with. A lot of people are familiar. Actually, iOS 10, the animated GIF thing will be part of iOS 10 because it's one of the keyboards they build into messages now. But it's become a popular way over the years for people to convey feelings about things. Like instead of just having a smiley face or something, you have someone rolling their eyes in a quick little video clip. Well, it's not really a video; it's an animated GIF. This ancient file format GIF that it's been around since 1987. I think CompuServe invented it. It's useless for everything else, but the one thing it's good at is animation. And Preview can actually help you edit these and even create them. And we have some examples in the book of you can open up a GIF, or you can take some photos, convert them from, say, PNG or JPEG, which are the most common formats, into GIF, and then you can open them back up in Preview, overlay them on top of each other, and you actually make each image in this file a frame. And then you can save that, and then you open it in something, and it shows. For instance, we use a carousel in the Preview book, and you can open up that GIF you've created, and you see the carousel animating back and forth. So it's just one of those little tricks. It's not the best at it. There are far better tools for creating animated GIFs, but if you need one right there on the spot, and it's one extra thing you know how to do with preview.
Or just it's your way to get introduced to some of these things. Play with it a little there, and then when it's time to get more powerful, then you go to some of the more powerful apps.
So I think the thing that surprised me the most when I was working on this, we had a very, very simple thing about how you can undo, undo, blah, 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 undo. And of course, preview, because it's a good Mac app, supports versions and autosave and all that. So you can browse all versions and go back into all your versions. So I'm trying to make a nice screenshot of this, and I'm trying to figure out some weird behavior with like why the windows are a little small for my screenshot. I want to be bigger and things like that. And I'm trying to figure that out, and I figure out this stuff. And then I don't know, I press a key or something accidentally while I'm in there, and I realize that because this is a time machine, right? Version, so you get the old versions on the right, and you get the current version on the left. I push a key accidentally, hotkey accidentally, and I realize the current version is completely editable and live. So you can
inside that time machine view.
So you can be flipping your right side back and forth among the different versions of your document while you're editing it on the left side. Is that freaky or what?
Didn't know that.
And that's not, I don't know. I mean, I didn't want to say, oh, this is unique. Maybe you can do it in other apps too. But I was like, I had never realized that was possible. And that's something that's frustrated the heck out of me, because iPhoto used to have this great feature where I think it changed the key at different times, but you could push a key like Shift or Control, and after editing a photo, and it would flip instantly back to what it looked like before your edits. So it was a quick preview back, before, after. And they took that away. It's not in Photos. I cannot believe they did it, because it's so useful as you're tweaking a photo to say better, worse, better, worse. And this isn't quite the same thing, but it still lets you say, wow, I'm adjusting my colors, whatever, and I can see back in my original how much better it looks in the new version now, because I've improved the exposure and all of this other stuff.
So, I mean, I don't even know where to go. I think we need to send people to the book, because there's just so many things here. The more we dig, the more there is to learn. So how many pages, how much, all the usual information we have to give folks?
166 pages, which I have to say, we thought we'd written all these articles. I actually did word counts. It was 14,000 words to start in the articles, which is kind of a lot of articles. But it's up to 36,000 words in the book. So it's a big book. But like all Take Control books, we don't expect you to sit down and read this thing. I mean, we actually would prefer that you did, because our words are, of course, you should be hanging in every one of them. But in the real world, we do understand you're going to want to look something up, and you can use the table of contents or the quick start to jump directly to the section you want to read a chapter, and be done. So 166 pages, but it's really easy to get in, get what you want, and get out. $15, simple, usual price for a good-sized Take Control book. And it's, like all Take Control books, it's available in PDF, EPUB, and Mobi. So you can read it on your Kindle and Mobi. You can read it on your iPhone or iPad or Mac in EPUB. And you can read it on your Mac, or if you had a PC where you wanted to read it, you can read it in PDF.
You can even read it in preview and try these things out as you read the book.
You almost can't avoid reading it in preview. That's the best part. This is like so meta.
Yeah, that's so meta. It just makes my head explode.
In fact, while you're in preview, as you're going through the PDF sections, you can actually screw up the manuscript if you want as you go back to copy first. But or actually, we tell you how to restore it if you screw it up. So you can just go nuts with it. Go nuts with it.
Wait. So you instruct people on how to read the book in preview in the book about preview?
Well, I guess we do now that I think about it.
We didn't say exactly that, but but it's absolutely what you would be doing. Most people, I won't say most, the majority of people will still be downloading PDFs of Take Control books. So EPUB is obviously pretty popular. Mobi Pocket much less so. But frankly, we make a pretty damn good PDF. And so if anyone asked me what I would recommend how to read a PDF or read a take control book, I would say start with the PDF unless you want to read on your iPhone, at which point you should definitely use the EPUB. But the EPUB we just can't do as nice things with in terms of layout and all that. So, if you're reading in iBooks on a Mac or an iPad, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to be ugly. But we did something clever this book. This is perhaps too inside-y baseball, but those little inline graphics we have and for buttons, we did something so the PDF has 144 crystal clear, super sharp inline graphics. We can't do that in EPUB because iBooks doesn't do these 144, it just does 72 DPI. So we actually have to downsample every inline graphic, which makes them fuzzy. So the little buttons are all fuzzy in the EPUB. There's just no technical way around it. And but in the PDF, they're really, really crystal clear in this particular one because we replaced them all for the EPUB with the fuzzy versions.
So to translate into English, this is the first Take Control book, if you get the PDF version, that has fully Retina quality graphics all the way through, and it looks super nice.
Oh, that is accessible to mere mortals. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why it keeps me around.
Yeah. All right, so it's takecontrolbooks.com to get Take Control of Preview, which can be viewed on Preview, or in Preview on your Mac, or, of course, on your iPhone and all of that. $15.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Got it? Good.
Easy.
Adam Engst, Josh Centers, the guys that did the book.
Something new.
Yes, I don't doubt it. I've learned some things new here, and I've skimmed the book, and I just sat through a session on Preview, and so I've got to. It's more time. I got to go back.
The guy in the session we haven't had in the book. I'm curious. Was there something we missed? Any?
No, I don't think so because they only had 20 minutes. Okay. So
just checking.
I mean, but he was doing just what you were doing. Victor was doing exactly what you were doing, but I mean, there's just so much here. It really is. It's so simple an app, and you look at the interface, and it doesn't seem to be that big a deal. And then you find out it can do all this stuff. So,
well, so much of it, I can't stop on some of this. Some of it is just technique, right? So, for instance, for shapes, you can control the fill color or the border color, and both of them. But that can be, and either of those can be transparent. So, for instance, if you want to just have a red rectangle and put it around something, you make its fill color transparent, so there's nothing in the middle. If you're doing a speech balloon, you can do the same thing. So you can have your speech balloon be white and have the text be black on top of that, or you could have the text be just on top of whatever the background is. And you can also copy and paste. Like people sometimes say, well, it doesn't have a fill tool. Like you can just fill a whole bunch of color. It doesn't, but you can copy some color from somewhere else in the document and paste it over things to eliminate them, which turns out to be really useful.
One last thing, I hate to keep going on here, but we forgot to talk about Instant Alpha. Instant Alpha is awesome. Yeah. It's one of those things you think you need Photoshop for. Like, okay, let's say you have a product photo or something like that, white background. You need to get rid of the white background. It has a tool to do that. It's like the magic wand tool. You just select it, just click and drag a little bit, make sure you get the right color, and just hit delete, and you delete the background instantly.
Yeah, make graphics so much easier.
Apple has done an amazing job because I use Instant Alpha all the time in Keynote and in Pages. Yeah. But sorry, I didn't know it was in Preview. Now I got to go and look for that.
Tool. There's a Smart Lasso tool too. So if you need to manually select some kind of odd shape, Preview can do that too.
Anything else?
Go start playing more with Preview, Chuck.
Yes.
Yes. Right now.
Go buy
your
the
homework.
Book.
I'm going to go.
Worth the money.
Okay, get the book. Go back and listen to this 2 or 3 times because Adam and Josh are going to tell you things that you will have forgotten that you can do. And
we've already forgotten. We were at the book.
That's why we have the book.
Because then we wrote it down.
So I'll give you another how deep this was. As I was actually writing away, and Control or Command Shift A is the keyboard shortcut to bring up the markup toolbar, and I got it wrong, and I hit Control Command A, and it put in an arrow. I'm like, huh? What is that? And so I started hitting all the other keys because this is an author. You love this stuff. You're like, oh, there's hidden shortcuts. It turns out they're not in the slightest bit hidden. They're right there in the Tools Annotate menu. So I did this, but I actually went through and like hit every key on my keyboard and inserted all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, wow, look at that! There's all these great keyboard shortcuts. And so it was just it was just so much fun to be writing and discovering this stuff. And like, only later did I discover that they'd actually really thought of it ahead of me and put it in the menus cleverly, like you just read it.
All right, I've got to give him the hook because otherwise we'll be here all night. But listen, Adam, I don't want to alarm you, but I think I saw the penguin move.
He's very subtle.
Okay, something to watch. So, good to have you, Adam. Thanks so much.
Anytime, Chuck.
Josh, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Chuck.
Folks, it's great to have you two here for this show. Excuse me. It was a lot of fun. Go to Take Control Books. Check out Take Control of Preview. You're going to have a lot of capabilities that you can really, really use. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com. The ever-present penguin.
Gotta have the penguin.
Well, he's always here. It's just a matter of whether he's had to move or something for some other reason. So he moves around. He's not a sedentary penguin.
So if he moves during the show, Adam, and you haven't moved him, should we be worried?
Yes.
Okay.
Say something.
Yeah, say something. Yes.
You should rig up a little RC car to go under the penguin and move it around so you can mess with people on these shows.
That would be fun. People. It's just, it's one of those things.
Josh, I like the idea of us getting Tanya to put the RC control under the penguin and move it around to mess with Adam.